my honor and pleasure to be here with Rav Aaron Leibowitz, who is the chairman of the Yerushalmim Party of the Jerusalem City Council and is the founder of Hashgacha Pratit, an alternative Orthodox kosher supervision agency, and is really fostering and giving his life to fostering the Jerusalem culture and develop it as an ideal model city. So I guess what I'd love to talk with you about a little bit is what is your ideal vision for Yerushalayim, for Jerusalem? Like, what is the vision that you're working towards?
Okay. Well, first of all, Rabbi Shmuly, it's really a pleasure being here with you and sharing here in Phoenix, Arizona, my first time here, the vision and hope that I have for Yerushalayim. And for me, that vision springs very much from first and foremost from the prophets, who speak about Yerushalayim as a place which will be a beacon of light for the world and usher in a redemptive consciousness. But for me, what that redemptive consciousness means, unlike I think others in Jerusalem, there are those who think that redemption is the time when everybody will see things the way I see them, and everyone will be like me. And my sense is that redemption will actually be a time where the world begins to appreciate the rich and tremendous diversity that the world has to offer, and in that respect, the work that I'm involved in, which is work which really touches on hot buttons between sectors, between communities, between conflict groups in a city which often is identified and seen as first and foremost a city of conflict. What I see there is tremendous potential that has worldwide and cosmic significance to address the question of how do we actually live together with those with whom we disagree, and how do we create a service of God which allows for different opinions, different positions, different lifestyles and ideas to coexist side by side and not be in conflict, but rather complement one another.
Yeah. So what does transformation look like? When you were, you're not only an activist and an organizational builder and change maker, you're also an educator. You're a Torah educator. And for someone to move from an absolutist way of thinking to a pluralistic epistemology, how does that happen from an educational perspective? Like how do we get those who want to cultivate a vision and love that it's not just going to be a secular city, or it's not just going to be a Haredi city, but actually how do we expand our consciousness in that sense? And what has your experience been like in that type of transformative work?
Well, I mean, I think that I would answer that starting first of all from my own beginnings as someone who values pluralism and a pluralistic perspective, which actually happened to be in high school in Gesher, and encounter seminars between Orthodox and non-Orthodox youth. Because for me, as an 11th grader and a 12th grader was a transformative process, and I feel that was your question. Yeah. The transformation came about through conversation. Yeah. And that's always been my experience, that really the transformation takes place. It begins, first of all, with an ability to listen, to really listen, as in Shema Yisrael, that call to vacate a place within ourselves in order to let something new come in and resonate is something which is very challenging and which I feel like is a huge work. And I feel like that's really where things begin. Things begin in conversation and dialogue, but I would say respectful conversation and dialogue. The ability for me to hear the other, the ability for me to honor the other even when I disagree with him. These are things which were born in me when I was very young, and reborn in me. I would say around 2013, when after being a rabbi and a Torah educator for years, I was reborn as an activist. And my activism in Jerusalem, which sort of came about in the housing protests, where I was actually Tisha B'Av night in the housing protests, when I was sitting on the streets of Jerusalem and reading Eicha together with other activists. I said to myself, wow, like my whole life I've been crying on Tisha B'Av. This is the first time I'm with people who are doing something about it. And what was striking about that circle was how diverse it was. That there were kippot and there were non-kippot. There were people who read Eicha every year and people who had never read Eicha before. And I began to get a taste of what might be able to happen in Yerushalayim, which could be game changing on a worldwide level.
Yeah. So it's an incredibly inspiring vision. What has the political dynamic been like in this political realm of as having been a Jerusalem City Council member and now as the chairman of this pluralistic party? How is that affected you, and sort of what is that dynamic mostly like?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is that in Yerushalmim, which is kind of my activism family, my team, so to speak.
Right.
Our approach is to have a bottom-up and top-down a movement. The grassroots level, the bottom-up, is really building better alternatives to whatever can be found. It's really very much an aseh tov, a do-good kind of orientation. On the other hand, the top-down is the political arena. That's the political trenches. There it's much more harsh. Politics in Jerusalem are very sectorial. City council is, you go to a city council meeting, it is not redemptive, it is not inspiring. Right. And I feel like part of the appreciation is that fighting for a strong, moderate voice in Jerusalem it's not like a John Lennon song. Imagine all the people. You actually have to you have to fight, and what you have to fight are the extremists. So that for me, I'm always asking myself, who are the people who are exclusive, who really want nothing to do with anybody who's different from themselves, and identifying them as the enemy. And I realize that's a very strong word. Yeah. And yet, when we're talking about the top-down, the political arena, the lines of battle have to be very clear in order for you to be effective. Yeah. And at the same time, empowering the more moderate voice. The strong playing field is not the political arena. The strong playing field is the grassroots, is civil society. But in order to build that strong dynamic in civil society, you have to have a strong power base on the political level in order to create the right decision. So maybe I'll give a quick example of that, what that looks like. Yeah. So 2 years ago in the Gay Pride Parade, a young woman, Shira Banki, was murdered by an ultra-Orthodox crazy man. Yeah. And as a result of that, there was a spontaneous public mourning gathering in Zion Square. When we saw that happening, we created first of all, a formal shiva, a formal communal shiva in Zion Square for Shira, in which every night people gathered and mourned her together in the city center. And since then, every Thursday night, we've been facilitating dialogue circles. Dialogue circles where people come together in conflict groups and speak with one another and hear one another and create that kind of dynamic, that transformative dynamic, which I spoke about earlier. So that's grassroots.
It's remarkable.
On the other hand, from the top down, Zion Square is now set to go through a complete remodel. And what we managed to do is create a contest between architects on how to remodel Zion Square, in which the criteria for how to remodel Zion Square was how do you remodel it, how will it be remodeled for it to convey itself as a place of dialogue and conversation and encounter. So that the entire square is about to go through an upgrade on the municipal level, and there was very harsh opposition, and it required really political acumen and a very strong stand in order to push that decision through. Yeah. So through those two ends, the bottom up and top down, we're working, and I feel like more than trying, we're succeeding in creating a whole new presence in the Holy City.
Amazing. So in such a sectorial culture, how were you able to launch Hashgacha Pratit? So
Hashgacha Pratit really was born in a restaurant in Jerusalem, and it's very much a Jerusalem phenomenon. Yeah. I walked into a coffee shop and said, "Are you kosher?" Yeah. And they said, "Yes, but we don't have any supervision." And I said, "Well, for me as an Orthodox rabbi, that's a problem because as a businessman you're not objective, and because if you don't keep kosher, do you have all the requisite knowledge to really be able to make it?" So I said, "Why didn't you have supervision?" They said, "We have nothing to do with the chief rabbinate." Yeah. So, of course, my response was, "Say no more. I need no explanation why you want nothing to do with the chief rabbinate." which in the area of kashrut, by the way, is especially in Jerusalem, is extremely corrupt. And I basically said, well, how about if I do it? And we created an alternative model simply between us, and then a mentor of mine, Rachel Azaria, who is the founder of my party, my municipal party, and is now a member of Knesset, of the parliament in Israel. She's the one who heard about it and said, listen, you have to turn this into a model.
Yeah.
And really what we did is something which was very much part of, I would say, the strong, open-minded community in Jerusalem who represent a diverse spectrum of halachic practice, but a shared high value for Jewish identity and Jewish values. And that's why this could happen in Yerushalayim. Around the idea of can I trust you? That's really what kosher supervision is. Right. Can I trust you? An awareness of building a really kashrut supervision when you look at what underlies it is the question of how does somebody Orthodox trust somebody who's not Orthodox by building a relationship with trust at the core. So here we are now 5 years later, and we've got 42 locations in 4 cities in Israel. Yeah. Strong North American support, strong grassroots Israeli support. Yeah. And I feel like just to put my finger on exactly your question, how is it that in Jerusalem, which seems sectorial, this happened? Because really, the image of Jerusalem as sectorial is only a partial picture. Jerusalem has a very strong, moderate central camp. A lot of it based on the young students. It's a university town. So there's a young intellectual elite who are also building their families there. There's a strong presence of traditional Jews, people who grew up Orthodox and left strict Orthodox observance, but still have a strong practice and Jewish identity. So it creates a whole spectrum of a core. And that's why our party is called Yerushalmi, because we really feel that there's something is happening and growing, which is the true Yerushalayim, and has to be reinforced.
Right. So speaking of that restaurant industry, what's your view on restaurants or movie theaters or the like being open on Shabbat?
So that's a great question, because part of being respectful for the other and honoring the other, really requires to see somebody from where they're sitting, and on the one hand, a coffee shop opened in Yanklowitz in my neighborhood a couple of years ago on Shabbat, which in a place where there had been nothing open. There was a very harsh pushback in my community as well. And to me, it was very important to say, there's a lot of people in this neighborhood who are happy that this opened on Shabbat because Shabbat is their day off. By the way, we don't have Sunday. One of the things I want to import for North America is on a Sunday. Yeah. But as of now, we don't have Sunday. There's one day off a week. It's Shabbat, and if you're not Orthodox, then that's the day you have to go to the movies. That's the day you have to go to the theater. In Yerushalmi, what we support is the Rabbi on Medan Accord, which is a groundbreaking document. Which I would suggest if anyone watching wants to look it up on Wikipedia and read more about it. The Rabbi on Medan Accord. It's really worth reading. It's groundbreaking in terms of how do you create a compromise between Orthodox and non-Orthodox in issues of religion and state. And when it comes to Shabbat, the compromise that they support, and which I also believe in, is to say that commerce will be closed, but leisure and entertainment and culture will be open. So that it doesn't become a day of shopping. And so you maintain some kind of special energy for Shabbat. It doesn't become the day that you go to the shopping centers, that you go to the supermarket, that you go. But at the same time, for people who are not observant of Shabbat in an Orthodox fashion, they have the opportunity to go to the theater, to go sit in a coffee shop. By the way, coffee shops are the Batei Knesset. A Beit Knesset, the synagogue, in Hebrew is Beit Knesset. It means a place of gathering. Right. Coffee shops are the places of gathering. Imagine the secular, quote-unquote secular community, their gathering places are closed on their day off. Yeah. So does that mean that it's not painful for me to see a coffee shop open on Shabbat in Jerusalem? No, it is painful. But really, our pluralism is tested in the places where we can carry a sacrifice for that coexistence.
Yeah. So we've been talking about Jews this whole time, And how does East Jerusalem and the Arab population, the Palestinian population, factor into how you view a pluralistic Jerusalem?
Well, first of all, it's important to note that in the political equations, the Palestinian community, which is 1/3 of the residents of Jerusalem, of the citizens of Jerusalem, have the right to vote for city council, but choose not to vote.
Huh.
Okay, because voting for city council for them would be an acknowledgement of Israeli sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge tragedy there because there's no representation. There's not a single Arab, Muslim, Christian, Palestinian on Jerusalem City Council.
Mm-hmm.
The 31 seats of Jerusalem City Council are all occupied by Israeli Jews, every single one. So that's first of all a huge barrier. At the same time, there are amazing projects happening in East Jerusalem by Palestinians who value the cooperation and working together. And we're involved in quite a few of those kinds of projects. Our position as a party is that East Jerusalem should be receiving services just like any other citizen of Jerusalem. The gaps are huge. Jerusalem is a very right-wing city overall. Our party, which I would say is center, maybe with a little bit of a leaning to the left, we have 3 seats on a city council of 30. I would say maybe there are all of 5 seats, which are center-left on the Jerusalem City Council. So the resources that are going to East Jerusalem are still very meager. It's important to note, by the way, that the right wing also do want to invest in East Jerusalem, because in many ways, choosing not to invest can also be perceived as a statement of temporary authority. And I was like, we're not investing there because eventually we're going to get it back. So over here, there is a place where the right wing and left wing can collaborate because they both have an interest in investing in East Jerusalem. And still, there are huge gaps. I would say though, on a more philosophical level and a theological level, the prophets speak about Jerusalem as a place which will be a house of prayer for all nations. For my house will be called the house of prayer for all nations. So for me, the fact that Jerusalem is also holy to Christians and to Muslims, and the fact that 1/3 of our population is not Jewish, nor an Israeli, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to discover how is it that a world with such huge gaps and differences can come together in service of one God, because that really does unite Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, that we all serve the Creator of heaven and earth, and to me that's a precious question, and I'm blessed to have both Christian and Muslim Palestinians with whom I speak around these questions.
Yeah. So picking up on that, my last question for you is, I think of you as not only a Torah teacher, but as a spiritual teacher, and even though those have deep intersections. And I wonder how do you view this work as spiritual? How does your own spirituality influence how you do this organization building, this political activist work?
Well, I would say first of all, as somebody who considers himself part of the Hasidic tradition, which is the Judaism of the heart, in contrast with the Judaism of the mind, of course, everybody has to engage in both, but there's always the question of where does your personality, come down stronger. I think that a path of the heart tends to be more open to others. The mind likes distinction, but the heart, the emotive heart, can resonate with things even if they're coming from different places. So for me, as also the rabbi of a synagogue which is known for its intense and strong prayer and its contemplative and celebratory prayer, the place where they intersect is the place where really the world needs to move towards a more open heart, an open heart which is willing to be exposed and vulnerable in order to become more expansive and more inclusive. And I would say that all my work is rooted in prayer, and I feel like that's the place where amazing things are happening in Yerushalayim today. It's very exciting, and I think that's the wellspring of energy that we draw from.
It makes sense that your shul is called Va'ani Tefillah. Tefillati or Tefillah?
Tefillah.
Va'ani Tefillah, that I am Tefillah, I am prayer, because it feels like that's really what you're doing in Yerushalayim, is bringing your Tefillah into building the vision of the prophets in modern day. So if you're in Yerushalayim, please visit his shul. If you please support Hashgacha Pratit, the wonderful project that's so important to the future of Jerusalem, and learn more about the Yerushalmim party. Rabbi Aaron Leibowitz, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shmuly. Pleasure being here.
Wonderful work.